Netanyahu, who had gone across and he'd spoken to US media, he'd appeared on Fox News, etc., but he hadn't yet, in the course of the war, actually answered questions from Israeli journalists. Well, he did that earlier on. He had a few messages. One of them was to the people of Iran. Again, he reiterated his plea, really, for them to rise up, for them to overthrow the Ayatollahs, for them, as he put it, to embark on the path of freedom. Although he did acknowledge, perhaps taking into account the limitations of Israel's capacity to exact regime change in Iran, he said that you can lead someone to water, but you cannot make them drink. In general, though, this was a speech that was for a domestic audience. It was done in Hebrew, and he had a bullish tone. There were insults and threats to the Iranian leadership, the new supreme leader, who he said was that he was a tool of the IRGC, and that basically anyone who was giving out insurance, they shouldn't be insuring a figure like that. He also said that with Donald Trump and himself were marching together, essentially, that they spoke every day and they made decisions on how this campaign was going to be going together. Now, that, I think, was a message to those who have been speaking of a divergence between the United States and Israel over this conflict, and that perhaps that Donald Trump is looking for an off-ramp, whereas Benjamin Netanyahu has every intention of pushing on to the end. And there were warnings to the Lebanese government, basically saying, unless you can get Hezbollah in hand, then Israel will go and take matters into its own hands and take parts of Lebanon and do that job for itself. And there was a domestic politics message as well. He used this platform to put the pressure on President Isaac Herzog and say to Herzog that he should use that power of pardon that he has, that power of pardon that Donald Trump has been calling on Herzog to do, and tell Netanyahu that he doesn't have to answer those corruption trial charges.
All right, thank you very much for that update. Rory Challens there in Amman in Jordan. Right, well, as we've been reporting, Iran's